Welcome back again to my videos. We continue our concepts in chemistry, that is under more concept, but today I'm focusing on concentration to give you some ideas that you need to know in order to answer questions in the exam. So the question that we may ask is, what exactly is concentration? Well, concentration can be defined as the number of solid dissolved in 1 liter of a solution. So we can say concentration is the amount of solute, so the amount of solute dissolved, in 1 liter of a solution. So that is what we simply call as being concentration. So just the amount of solute dissolved in 1 liter of a solution, that is what we call as concentration. Well, some people may also define it and simply say, well, concentration can also concentration C can also be defined as we can simply say is the number of moles dissolved, so the number of moles dissolved in 1 liter of a solution. So that is what we simply call as being concentration. Now, what's the formula for concentration that we are going to be using? Well, concentration, we can simply say concentration C is equal to, you can say, number of moles. So you can consider the number of moles represented by N divided by what we are calling as being the volume. But remember, the volume is always supposed to be in cubic decimeters. So concentration, we can therefore say that concentration C is equal to N divided by V. So that is what we mean. So this is the formula that we apply. Now, what is the SI unit in this case for concentration? Well, concentration, the SI unit is simply mole in this case, so we can use mole per cubic decimeters. That's the SI unit for concentration, meaning that here the number of moles, remember, is represented in moles and the volume is supposed to be in cubic decimeters. So combining that will give us mole per cubic decimeter. So that is per cubic decimeter. So that is the unit for concentration. But remember, concentration can also be expressed in what we call as being molar, represented by capital letter M. So what is the relationship between mole per cubic decimeter and mole? Well, those are just the same. So we can say 1 mole per cubic decimeter is the same as 1 molar. So sometimes you may find in the exam where they are using molar, it's a unit for concentration. So meaning, if for example you have got, if for example you have, let me just flip this and show you. If for example you have got 2 mole per cubic decimeter, I can just say it is 2 capital M, 2 molar. I'm simply talking about concentration. Now, I want you to also understand that sometimes what can happen is that our concentration can also be given in terms of what we are calling as being the mass of the solute that you are dealing with, divided in this case by the volume. But remember, volume in cubic decimeter. So you can say concentration, that is, can be the mass divided by the volume. Now, when it is expressed in mass of a solid, it simply means your mass is, remember, is in grams, your volume in cubic decimeter. So it will give you gram per cubic decimeter. So that's another way we can actually express what we are calling as being our concentration. Now let's briefly go back to the formula that we established. Concentration is equal to number of moles over volume. That's the formula you are going to be using. Well, we can put this in a triangle so that you can easily convert, where we can say concentration, number of moles, and volume, because sometimes we can ask you to find the number of moles. So number of moles can be, if you know the concentration, you multiply by the volume. That can give you the number of moles. What about if they tell you to find the volume? Well, volume can be the number of moles divided by the concentration. That's what we mean. So you can use that. But let's put up an example so that we show you how you can actually, get to use this formula for concentration. For example, we can say, maybe in the question, we can say, what is the concentration? So we can say, what is the concentration? What is the concentration of 0.5 grams of sodium hydroxide in 250 cubic centimeter of solution in, maybe we can say A, you express your answer in gram per cubic decimeter, then B, you express it in mole per cubic decimeter. So how can we go about that? Well, it's very simple. Now let's just try to demarcate that. This is very simple when you want to go about that. So what you need to remember is that what is the concentration? So the question is asking you to find the concentration. What have they given you? Well, they have given you the mass according to the data, which is 0.5 of sodium hydroxide. Remember, the proper formula for sodium hydroxide is simply NaOH. So you need to find the MR, the relative molecular mass of this one. But they have also given us the volume. They are telling us in 250 cubic centimeter of that. So remember, you need to convert that. How do you convert that? Well, you need to remember that 1 cubic decimeter is equal to 1000 cubic centimeter. So you can carry out a conversion. If you were to convert this one, you just need to divide by 1000. Don't be wasting your time. So just divide it by 1000, which will give you 0.25, and that is going to be in cubic decimeter. So now if you notice, they want us to express it in gram per mole. So we can do the first one there. So we just need concentration is equal to, it will be the mass divided by the volume there. So the concentration will be the mass is simply 0.5 grams, 0.5 grams divided in this case by the volume, which is 0.25, that is in cubic decimeter. So therefore the concentration will be equal to, you can use your calculator, and that will be 0.5 divided by 0.25. That is going to give me 2 gram per cubic decimeter. So that's the concentration of sodium hydroxide there. So that's the way you can get it in gram per cubic decimeter. But in most cases, when the question has not told you, you'll be expressing the concentration in the SI, unit. Let me show you how you can do that. B, so we look at B. So to find the concentration in mole per cubic decimeter, which is the SI unit, even if they have not told you, you need to express your concentration in mole per cubic decimeter. Now, since they gave us the mass of a 0.5 grams, we need to convert this mass to the number of moles. Now, what they have actually given us in this case, so we need to convert that one. Remember the volume, which we converted previously, 0.25, that's cubic decimeter. I told you you need to find the MR of sodium hydroxide. Of course, if you are not familiar with finding the MR, remember there's hydrogen, there's oxygen, and there's sodium. So this is 1 times 1 to give you 1. How many oxygen? 1 times 16 to give you 16. How many sodium? 1 times the atomic mass, which is 23. We are going to have 23. When you add all this, it is simply going to give us a MR of 40. So that will give us 40 gram per mole. That's the molar mass if you want. So step number 1, let me just give you steps that you can do to find that. You first of all, in this mass, you first of all need to know the number of moles. Now, the formula that you apply to find the number of moles, remember, number of moles is equal to mass divided by MR. So the MR of what? Of the compound they are talking about, sodium hydroxide. So it will be the mass 0.5 divided by 40. So 0.5 divided by 40, that will give you a 0.005 0.0125. So these are the number of moles that are in that mass, 0.5 grams of sodium hydroxide. Then the next step, I'll call it as spin step number 2, you can now find the concentration. So the next step, you simply need to find the concentration. After changing the mass to the number of moles, you go to find the concentration. So concentration is equal to number of moles over volume. Allow me to clean up this space there so that it doesn't interfere. So what's the number of moles? You get that one there, 0.0125 moles. You divide by the volume, which is 0.25 cubic decimeter. So therefore, when you calculate that, 0.0125 divided by 0.25, it is giving me a 0.05. This is mole per cubic decimeter. So that's the concentration that I wanted you to get. We'll see you in my next video as I talk about more concepts.